Today we are here with the family of Michael Montijo, who went missing in Ridgeville, South Carolina on January 26, 2020. Can you tell us a little bit about Michael?
Yeah, Mike was a 20-year Navy vet. I met Mike in 1998. He was my neighbor in Newport, Rhode Island. I had just made chief, and he was a very seasoned chief petty officer. So he was sort of a mentor, if you will, of mine. He really helped me out through the transition process of becoming a Navy chief, and I learned a lot of leadership traits from him. Just a great guy. He was a submariner, so he spent quite a bit of time at sea. Literally, I was his master of ceremonies at his retirement ceremony. And I remember mentioning, because I did a little research, he literally spent 10 years submerged underwater, literally day for day. So I always considered him a hero of mine. Um, and it's interesting because as time went on, Mike ended up retiring the chief, and I ended up moving on. And when I retired, I was actually a master chief. And I think our roles as time went on kind of reversed a little bit. I sort of took on a mentorship role for him um, as I got older and I got senior. So him and we always had a great relationship. We went to the Red Sox games together. I'm originally from Maine, and that's where I live now in retirement. We would come home every hunting season, and we would hunt together because I have property, and we would also fish quite a bit at my camp. So we spent a lot of time together, in an outdoor setting. And of course, he was my next door neighbor in Rhode Island. So that's kind of how I met Mike in April and their son John. Um, so yeah, we spent weekends together, and there were a lot of times where, I had DirecTV, which allowed me to watch some Kansas City Royals baseball games, and he was a big Royals fan. So he would, even when I wasn't home, he would come over, open my garage, turn on my TV, and sit in there and watch. But most of the time, I joined him. So anyway.
Finally.
There you go. There you go.
Well, I was trying to
Hi.
do it for I was trying to do it for my tablet, but I don't ever use it, and so now it's got all these updates going on. So I just bailed and used my phone.
That works. So we didn't realize you were joining us as well. We did start, but we didn't get very far. So we can go ahead and I'll go ahead and ask you how he was prior to his disappearance, about him, and then we'll go into his disappearance and then investigation, and then any questions that we might have. Anything that you don't feel obligated to talk about, you don't have to. And that's pretty much it.
Okay.
All right. So I already asked him how he was about, or how, about him prior to his disappearance. So I'll go ahead and ask you the same thing. Um, can you tell me a little bit about Michael prior to his disappearance?
Um, he seemed fine to me. I mean, he was he had problems with alcoholism, and he was taking antidepressants and fixing to go see a therapist, and try and get more help. And it was just a constant battle. I mean, but he knew he needed help. So um I don't know. I mean, he didn't seem like anything was really going on, that out of the ordinary. So
Yeah, Belinda, can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah, I kind of gave her the rundown on his Navy history and our history of our friendship and all that good stuff. So
Okay.
I'm actually glad you kind of started out with that. I didn't have the opportunity to get to that point yet.
Okay.
But yeah.
I mean, I don't know when Matt had talked to him. I mean, I talked to him, you know, uh, not on Sundays because of the games. It was so close to the Super Bowl and the Chiefs were going. And so, but he had, he always made weekly calls to my dad because they always talk football. So, um, and he's dad didn't notice anything, wrong either. So,
Yeah, we chatted quite a bit via IM a lot. The Facebook IM is actually a great thing. We talk quite a bit, and every now and again we would talk over the phone. I know he thought the world of my mother, and I know on holidays he would call my mother most of the time, most every major holiday, just to say hello, check in, and see how she was doing. As I mentioned earlier, we would always come to Maine and hunt together, and my mother would insist that we stay there with her because she enjoyed his company and thought the world of him. And was extremely distraught and heartbroken over the whole thing with him missing. She thought about him a lot.
And can you tell us about his disappearance?
Well, I'll start, Belinda, if that's okay. I
well,
found out.
I was just gonna tell her how I found out, and
Okay, go
then
ahead,
let
and
you
then
go.
Yep, go ahead.
So apparently he disappeared Sunday morning or sometime during the day on Sunday. Um, this is what I was told by April, his wife. I did not get a call that anything was wrong until about 7 o'clock Monday night. So that's where the problem lies with everything that went on. Why do you wait that long to tell your husband's family that he's missing, or even call to find out, if anyone had heard from him? So your turn, Matt.
Well, I had found out from a mutual friend that actually the neighbor that lived between, we lived in townhouses and or duplexes, and the neighbor that lived shared the duplex with him was in between us, and of course he had retired, and I think he lives in New Mexico now, but I had got an IM from him and asking me if I had heard that Mike had been missing, and I was the first I had heard that anything was wrong. April knew we were very close, but she didn't reach out to me and tell me that anything was wrong, or that he was missing, or anything like that. And I happened to find out from Kevin. His name was Kevin Schmidt, by the way. And so we chatted a little bit. I called him and we talked, and um, he would keep up with Kevin as well because we're all sort of a big football family, right? I was a Cowboys fan. Mike always joked with me because he was a Chiefs fan, and Kevin was a Buffalo Bills fan. So we were always jabbing at one another. But I happened to find out from Kevin, and I called April within hours of finding out, and she was very cryptic, didn't have much to say. I think she was very guarded in what she was telling me. I told her that I'd be willing to come down and help look for him because I got the impression from her that, people were actually involved in searching for him. And I told her that I would be willing to take a little bit of time off of work and come down. And she didn't necessarily like the idea, but she didn't tell me no. She mentioned she needed to talk to her mother about it for whatever reason. I don't know, but I was going to go come hell or high water anyway. It didn't matter whether she wanted me there or not. The only problem was that the property that his house was on, the property was owned by her family. It was quite a large parcel of property. And, in order to gain access to look for him, I needed to have their permission, right? So I kind of went down there. I showed up, and I got in town, and I told her that I would like to meet for dinner. She took the time out after she got permission from her mother, by the way, to meet with me. We chatted a little bit. She gave me some insight as to what happened. Um, she had mentioned that I asked her when the last time she had seen him, and she said that she was getting ready to go to work. And as she was walking out the door, he was passed out on the couch, covered head to toe with a blanket, and that was the last time she said she had seen him. Now, since then, the story's kind of changed a little bit in that she has told folks that she talked to him, had a conversation with him while she was getting ready for work in their bed. He was in pajamas, something completely different from what she told me. And I have a very good memory, so I know exactly what she told me.
Right. So she told me that night that she called that was missing. She told me that he was in bed and that he told her he thought he was seeing things again, which is what would happen whenever he was trying to quit drinking and was having severe withdrawals.
I mean, and keep in mind that he was weeks away from getting treatment at a VA facility. He was already approved and ready to go into detox, and there was a light at the end of the tunnel for him. And of course, he was a week away from the Chiefs' first Super Bowl, and he was a diehard Chiefs fan. I'm telling you. So, it's hard for me to believe that he would miss that. And I realize, people with mental health issues and you know, they're capable of anything. But knowing him, I don't see him just walking out the door and leaving forever with everything that he owned, chewing tobacco, wallet, phone, keys to his vehicle sitting on the countertop. I just can't see him doing that. I mean, he was a really, really, really smart guy. Um, he worked on cruise missiles. I mean, he had a security clearance. He was very well respected. And I just think that there's more to this story than than is being discussed. And there's so many loose ends that it's hard for me in my mind to really get my head wrapped around everything that's been said and everything that's happened since he went missing. What do you think, Belinda?
Right. That's it. I mean, there's more questions than there are answers, and Colleton County was absolutely zero help from the get-go. They the officer had requested several things that they didn't do, and they lied. I mean, they did that Dateline article and they lied. They did not they left out the drones this time, but they told us that they put up drones and they had people in the water searching. And
Keep in mind during that time frame, they said at the time that the ability for them to search was significantly hampered because of the rain and the weather. So, and they didn't get out there. I was
no, they
down
didn't.
there. They didn't,
No,
despite what
that's
they
what I'm
say,
saying.
they didn't look.
No, that's what I'm saying. They didn't look. That's my point. They lied about it, and they even quit answering my calls. Quit calling me back. They told me that if I needed any information, that I had to go through April, which she quit talking to me. And she'll if I reach out to her about interviews and stuff, sometimes she'll answer, but it takes forever. So
Keep in mind that this is a wife that's so distraught that her husband's missing that she didn't take one day off of work. She was
no,
at
that's
work
good.
the
I
next
mean,
day.
yeah, everything that's been posted, I'm the one who posted about him missing on his Facebook page. I made the Help Find Mike page. I mean, we're the ones that have done everything to try and find him and keep his name out there. They've done zero. I've asked them to put up flyers. Then they never got done when he first went missing. Well, we showed his picture around on the phone. I'm like, that's not the same as having a flyer right there in stores in people's faces. It's just not the same. So,
So the article that was written was also, they talked about canines. The only canine that looked was a canine in training, and it was one of April's friends. It wasn't even a certified canine police officer type dog or a rescue dog. It was a dog in training who tracked him supposedly to the end of the driveway, and that was it. So even that was half-hearted, if it even happened. I don't even know if that even happened. There's a neighbor by the name of Ann Mizzole, I think. That name ring a bell, Belinda? Remember her?
yeah, that's she's kind of family.
Yeah, she rents a lot and has her double wide. Same thing on her April's parents' property. and she was warned if she opened her mouth or talked to the authorities that they would revoke her lease and she would have to move. So Anne, I spoke with Anne for hours. I mean, I think I audio taped one of the phone calls that we had together. And she has always been suspicious that there was some funny business going on. She told me that I knew this as well. Mike really didn't get along well with April's family. Because Mike was a big Boundary guy, and they would just show up at his house because they were over the road truckers for a period of time. And when they were up in New England, they would show up on the weekend unannounced. And I think I spoke to him, and he had a very difficult time with her father because I think he was working. Was it the second? I think it was the third shift, and he would come home to sleep, and her father would ride his four-wheeler around Mike's house and wake him up. And it was almost like Mike felt like it was on purpose that they were harassing him. So I don't know. I think when I went down there to help look for him, there was very little effort. Of course, there was a not a four-wheeler, but a side-by-side that they let me use. April and her mother never got off the side-by-side. As a matter of fact, when I was in the woods looking, they were sitting there jibber-jabbering, talking about, I don't know, the weather. Might as well have been talking about the weather because they certainly weren't interested in being out there with me to beat the bush looking for him. I was hoping that I could find him, but I wasn't. I was hoping that I wouldn't at the same time. And I took 2 solid days and I had scratches and thorns all in me, and South Carolina's pretty rough when it comes to underbrush and such. But he we looked, and there was a lot of water. I get it, but they didn't. They had a lot of opportunity, and it just seems like they didn't take it. And I don't know.
So, I know it's rough, and they did take the four-wheelers out a lot, and we were trying to get a search party together not long after he went missing to go out on the land with on foot with people, and we had it set and everything, and then Colleton County Police called the advocate that we had that was doing it and told her to call it off because they were going to go do a search.
And they never did.
They did, kind of.
Yeah, well. And then I also heard from Anne, I think it was Anne that told me this, that we did a while back, we did a YouTube not an interview, but a YouTube video and sort of talked through these same things. And evidently her family watched it. They were all together when they watched it. And it was funny. She said that everybody, when I wouldn't say the accusations started flying, but when some of the questions came up and a few comments were made, people just all of a sudden disappeared and went home. So, I don't know. I just find it, the last day I was there, I wanted to do one more ground search in an area that I wasn't able to get to. And April said she would meet me. She went to work, wouldn't answer her phone, and I ended up leaving that late afternoon without even talking to her that day. I mean, it's like she just completely shut down, wouldn't speak to me, wouldn't answer any questions, wouldn't, it was interesting. And there was a number of other little things that sort of caught my attention. Like, for example, her mother has a tendency to talk a lot, which the problem with that is if you got to remember what you say, 2 or 3 years down the road, right? And she took me over to the house and was showing me, Mike's man cave, which they had completely cleaned up, by the way. They had changed the lock on his gun safe. She had showed me where there was like literally AR-15 bullet holes in the wall of his double wide, and you could see the exit holes outside in the siding. So something happened in that house. I don't know what happened. They're blaming it on him. The excuse was that he was drunk He was a lunatic. He just started shooting up the house. And that's not Mike. I mean, that's just not him. I don't know what happened, um, but something happened. Mike would just not disappear in the fashion which they said he disappeared in, and never be heard from again. That's something happened to him, and I would bet my life that he was harmed somehow. I don't know how it went down. I don't know. Maybe he got into it with her father. Maybe he got into it with April, and something happened that neither one meant. Maybe they didn't mean to do it. It just happened, right? I mean, that happens sometimes. But something happened to him. He just didn't leave. He's there somewhere. He's on that property somewhere, and they know where he is. I adamant about that. He is there somewhere.
Has his house ever been searched?
No, the cops didn't care. They chalked it up to him being a drunk, okay, and he wasn't worth it for them, worth their time.
Right, because they had several calls. I was told how many, but I don't remember how many it was with him, being drunk and them going out there. And so that's it. They just chalked it up to he was a drunk, and they were even heard making the comment that if he was found, they were going to make him pay for them having to go out and search and the manpower and everything. So, I mean,
her mother even started a rumor saying that he was seen at a local store buying.
No, she didn't start that rumor.
She didn't?
No, the police said that's what they heard, which that was discounted too. But she made me forget what I was going to say. It's just the police. They didn't want to look for him. I had to keep calling them because they wouldn't. I was not getting any answers from anybody about what they were doing to try and find him. And I had to call the police and leave a voicemail for the detective that was doing it in tears, asking him how he would feel if his brother was missing and nobody would talk to him. Then they finally called me back. So, I had to bug them to get his cell phone and his laptop to see if they could find any information on it. Maybe something had happened we didn't know about. It took nearly 2 months for them to go get that and get it done, and then talk to April and about the financials and all that stuff to find out, because they were under the impression that he had just walked off and left everything.
Well, they also asked her to come in for an interview at some point, which was
that was it.
Was that it?
It took like 2 months, and I had to keep bugging them.
Yeah. And she actually, the neighbor, Ann, told me that she lawyered up and asked her lawyer if she actually had to go to the police station. And evidently her lawyer told her it would be a good idea for you to go and answer questions. So she did.
And she took her mom with her.
She had an issue just going to the police department and talking to them. So
do you so she did go and talk to the police?
Evidently, yes. I don't know what they discussed, obviously, but she chatted with them.
I mean, I'm not even saying that, just saying they didn't have anything to do with it. My problem with all of this is the lack of concern that everybody in South Carolina had about him missing, that nobody put any effort into really looking for him, that they acted like they didn't even care that he was missing. And so that's my problem with all of it right there. And I'm with Matt. I don't know if they had anything to do with it or not, but I believe he's on that land somewhere, even if he wandered off in a drunk delirium.
Now, how was his relationship with his wife prior to his disappearance?
Well, I think it was strained just because he didn't get along with her family, and matter of fact, I think that her father may have even threatened, may have even threatened to throw him off the property because him and April they weren't getting along. It was always the issue of he drank, and she, that's something that she didn't want him to do, and it was a bone of contention between the two of them, husband and wife. It would be, I suppose, right? But
right.
he I didn't see her shed a tear once when I was there. I mean, it was the way that her mother and oh, and by the way, Mike was adamant, and he was a stickler for having cameras up and everything else because he really wanted to protect his property, and he was big into game cam stuff too. But
Well, they had foxes that kept getting into the chickens.
every single camera on that property was disabled. It wasn't working, and that's not Mike. He's a tech guy. He keeps all of that stuff up. And at her mother's house, when I went over there. I think I went over there to get something to drink. On their countertop, they had all of their game cams with all of the SD cards out on the countertop, batteries included, and it's like they just drove around their entire property and gathered up every camera that they owned. It was just odd to me that
Yeah.
every camera was on their countertop. And Mike's cameras at his house were all in op.
It's definitely strange. When was the last time either of you have talked to the detective on his case?
Well, I spoke with
been
a
a while.
police officer that showed up on the initial call. He no longer works for Colleton County, but he admitted to me that he asked for additional resources the night that he went there. He was denied additional resources. He had a major issue with that because at that time of year it was still even in South Carolina it's cold in the evening. So, Mike would have had a very difficult time with hypothermia, if you will. And by then, what is it, two nights, especially with it being as wet as it was. But he told me over the phone that he was not happy with the way that they handled Mike's disappearance. And he also told me that he felt it could possibly have been some foul play. He no longer works there. Evidently, he had a falling out with the sheriff, and he moved on to another department. And I wish I could remember his name, but I can't. I'm sure freedom of information.
No, I
would
have
be
his
very
name.
easy
I
to
have all
find
that
out his
stuff,
name.
but
Do you?
I have all that stuff. Yeah, but I'm not, I'm not going to put it out here because he may not want that. I
Right.
mean, just saying.
I agree.
So, because I hired a private investigator and they went and talked to everybody, but the detectives, they gave him, what's that report called? They gave the private investigator that, and then they would not talk to him anymore. The last time I talked to them was when they notified me that they had the laptop results back. And then they told me at that point that if I had any more questions, I could talk to April.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the police report that there were two very different police reports. One has, I think the one doesn't have the officer requesting any additional resources. And then the other one that actually was the one that is official did. So it's interesting that I think there are two different documents. I don't know why there would be two
one
different.
is heavily, what's that called? Redacted.
Yeah.
So
No, they went through his phone and laptop. Did they find anything on that?
they said they did not.
When was the last time you spoke with April, his wife?
I'm gonna say she really didn't talk to me too much on the phone. I'm gonna say maybe March or April of 2020.
It's amazing. I just don't get it.
So I mean, I don't
That's
know.
probably about the same for me.
I just I don't know. I just feel like more could have been done, and it's not just, I get that they have a lot of other things going on, and missing adults are not the top priority. But I've even heard from people that live around there that children have gone missing, and the community had to go find them because the police really didn't. I mean, or the sheriff's department. So, I don't know. It's just,
Do
you've probably
know
heard it about
if-
the country's, stuff. So
Yeah.
I
Do you
don't
know
know.
if her parents were ever interviewed?
No,
Probably
they were
don't.
not. Nope, I don't think they were. So
Do they have children?
stepson John, he he's in the Air Force, so he was stationed in California at the time, and then he went back home for a while, and I had spoken to him on Messenger a few times, and then once he went back to South Carolina, he quit reaching out to me too. So
Right. I mean, you
he's
got
not
to keep in
there
mind
anymore.
that her family, and I don't mean to sound flip about this, but her family, they are all thick as thieves, right? They will not talk, period. They didn't like Mike. He didn't necessarily care for them either. Um, I can give you what I think might have happened, I suppose, but it's total speculation. But um, I think that day somebody showed up at his house for whatever reason. I think maybe there was a somewhat of a confrontation, and somebody got the drop on him. Something happened that took 2 days to call the cops to come look for him. In that time frame, they got rid of him. There's an the Adesto River is right across the street from where they live. I know because I searched all the riverbank. I was down there um, while April and her mother were talking about knitting or whatever they wanted to talk about while they were sitting on the side by side, not involved in it at all. I felt like I was I was a bump on a log, if you know what I mean. Um, but yeah, I think that, and of course, it's been how long now? What, 5, 6 years? Good
5 years.
luck. Good luck finding him now. But they tried to get. We had cadaver dogs lined up. They wouldn't let us on the property.
No, that got something
Well,
happened with the
Kim
weather or
tried.
something, and that got
Kim
canceled
tried.
a couple times. Yeah,
Yeah, Kim tried. It got canceled, and then they decided that they didn't want to do it, and so
and I even reached out to another organization about cadaver dogs, and they said that they had to go uh through the Colleton County Sheriff's Department to get it approved, and they told me not to hold my breath because they usually wouldn't approve it. So that's that's my one thing I still want to do is get cadaver dogs out there, but they're not cheap, and so
Now, did Mike have any medical illnesses or take any medication for any sicknesses or anything?
blood pressure, high blood pressure, cholesterol. And he was on some antidepressants. I'm not sure what kind. He told me he was, and that's why he was actually doing better, and typically when you're taking those, you don't drink. So you're not supposed to.
the thing about it is April always said that he was trying to detox on his own. Well, he had done that before, and it didn't work out very well in Rhode Island. He ended up going into the hospital,
Well,
and
he did it
he
in South
knew that he
Carolina
couldn't do it.
too.
He knew he couldn't do it on his own. So, um, I find it hard to believe that he was trying to do that. I think um, I don't know. I find it odd that I got two different stories from her
I don't know, he
regarding.
had seizures. He had seizures the last time he tried to quit on his own in South Carolina. So
Yeah.
And the rehab that he had set up, did he set that up himself or did somebody else set that up for him?
I
think it
don't
was
know if
through,
it was rehab. I know it was he was going to the VA for therapy.
it was through the VA.
Has there been any tips or sightings since this disappearance?
Yeah.
Um,
No, I haven't.
I mean, there was just that one that there's somebody in South Carolina said that they had seen someone in Charleston said they thought they saw him, but that was a discounted. And then then the thing with the gold Buick was discounted. And then after that last flyer got put up on y'all's missing page, a guy said that he thought they saw him in Abbeville, which was about 2 hours away from there to the north. But I called the police department, and I also had an advocate go out and check, and the police department didn't call me back. And the advocate said that the searchers went and looked in the homeless camps and stuff, and they didn't show his picture around, and no one had seen him. So the guy that gave the tip had mental health issues, and as soon as I called the authorities and had them go check it out, and I'm sure they went and talked to him, he quit messaging us. So we've checked them all out, that the 3 that we received.
There is,
And so,
Belen, you might disagree with me, but in my view, there's zero chance that he walked off.
No, I don't disagree.
Yeah, there is zero chance that he walked off. And no, my thought was that maybe he was just tired and he walked off and maybe committed suicide or something. That's why it was so important to get out and look in the woods, right?
Right.
And I looked everywhere. I mean, there was the adjacent piece of property had a pond, a man-made pond. I mean, I even went in over there and looked and it was just nothing. There was just no sign whatsoever. He didn't run off. He's not in a homeless camp. He's not, as they said, he potentially was with some woman at the store in the gold Buick and was seen driving off with it. Mike didn't like to hang out with people like that either. If you had drug issues,
Mike didn't really like people.
He didn't. I mean, I'm surprised that he loved me as much as he did, frankly. And we had tiffs every now and again, like friends do. But I'm telling you, there was zero chance that he ran off with somebody that, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but somebody that was dependent on drugs or anything else. Just wasn't his MO, period.
Nope. I mean, the tips are few and far between, and it's, they've all been checked out, and it's nothing. So
the people that you would expect to get the most information from and the most support and the most cooperation from are people that supposedly loved him. And that would be his wife and family and his stepson. And they are non-existent. From the very beginning, they weren't helpful. From the very beginning, it appeared to me that they were hiding. They were just hiding from it.
Well, John wasn't. He wasn't even there, and he couldn't even get the police department to call him back either or talk to him. So, yeah. Or the sheriff's office. So,
but since then, John was down there. He was stationed there. He's back in the fold, if you know what I mean. And he got real quiet real quick too.
Yep. So, I mean, I don't know. I can't. You know me, Matt. I don't like to point fingers. I'm just upset because
you know what?
To help him find him.
If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's usually a duck. And I hate the thought of when you see missing in this picture of him underneath it, he's not missing. Somebody knows exactly what they did with him. And I'm okay. I'm actually starting to go over the top, and I apologize, but that's how I truly feel. I mean, you just don't shut down. You just they have moved on with their lives. She never took one day off of work.
No, and you know what really bothered me, and she cut all of our family off of Facebook. She deleted us all. She unfriended us all because we were commenting because she went on a cruise, like, I don't know, but it wasn't even a year. He hadn't even been missing a year, I think. Right. She went on a cruise, and we were all talking about it, and we got unfriended.
Crazy. And you hear rumors, right? You hear certain things from certain people. I had heard after the fact that she was, and I don't know how true this is, and I probably shouldn't even say anything, but I had heard that she was in some type of a relationship with one of the sheriffs, one of the officers on the sheriff's department. I don't know how true that is. Evidently, he had been seen at her work visiting, and I don't know, maybe Mike found out something and there was some type of
Well, no, they used to
confrontation.
go. They shopped where she worked all the time. So anyway,
Now, does her and the family still live in the same location?
Yes.
yes.
And you said it's been in the family for quite some time?
Yeah, they've owned that property for years. They once they retired from over the road trucking, they, put up their double wide and they
Well,
have,
they had all that.
they have
All that up
animals and
before they
such.
retired.
Oh yeah, they set themselves up very well. And then of course Mike and April moved down there. They gave him, I use my air quotes. They gave them a piece of property to put their house on, and then, you know, uh, sort of reneged, if you will, on the deal, and that was an area of contention with Mike as well. You
Well, they
know,
were supposed to put it in April's name, and they wouldn't do
right.
it. So
Well, he had an argument with evidently her father and said, "What I'll do is, I paid for the house. I'll move the house right off the property." Is basically what he said, and like I said, they didn't get along very well. Because Mike was a huge boundary guy, right? He liked his privacy. He didn't like to mess around with people, and he wanted people to leave him alone. And they were unable to do that. They just couldn't.
Now, you said that you have a page set up for him?
yes, it's on Facebook. It's Help Find Mike Montijo.
Perfect.
I set it up, I don't know, a while back. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I did all the legwork. I mean, that I don't know if you saw the Dateline article, but that was one of his high school friends that as soon as he went missing, she started emailing them for the last 5 years. She has been emailing them and finally got the interview. And it saddened me. I mean, I know they can only write the facts, but it saddened me that they made it look like April was the one who got a hold of them. And she didn't. I mean, I had somebody from the news channel in South Carolina in Charleston reach out to me about an interview on his email page that I had set up. I mean, I set up, an email address, or our sister did. And so they had found it from his Help Find Mike Montijo page, and they emailed me. And so they wanted to talk to April instead of me. So, I got a hold of her and gave them all the info and everything. And I don't think the interview ever happened. I never heard from them again. So it's like yeah, that's why I didn't include her in this, because everything seems to end, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's amazing to me that, with all the work that you've done and all the folks that I've sent emails to and all the work that Kim has done in South Carolina, that it just takes the right person to hear the story, right? And that's what I've prayed for multiple times. Just the
Right.
right person has to sort of take an interest, and we have yet to find that person. And maybe this will bear some fruit. I don't know, but I would like to eventually, for the family and everybody else, find out what happened to him. Just want to know what happened to him.
Right. Right. I mean, that's why the private investigator even came to a dead end, because he couldn't get them to talk to him. And all he was trying to do was find out if maybe there were some clues that everybody was overlooking, so he could try and find out, what had happened, and nobody would talk to him. So,
And they can't get access. The property's gated. I mean, they all carry around guns. I mean, every one of them, all of her brothers and everybody else own adjacent property. They're all armed to the teeth. A lot of that is because of what they've got down there. They've got a lot of a lot of nasty critters around, and it's in the country.
well, yeah,
But
it's out in the
still,
country.
you know,
So, got to shoot a snake every now and then.
right? Or a hog, a wild hog. When I was down there and I was looking for him, I had a sidearm on because I wasn't sure what I was going to run into.
Sure.
So
Now, besides the right person hearing his story and coming forward, is there anything that you would like the community to know?
I just wish that the police and other people and would care more, and I've asked several people to even put up flyers down there.
This, I would say that this could happen. This could happen to anyone. I mean, somebody could get kidnapped, or somebody could be harmed, or
It does all the time. That was like Brandon
yeah.
Lawson, that guy that went missing. His brother found him sitting almost against a tree or something, like not far from where they thought he was at.
So
And it was years later when they found his skeleton.
I think the
So,
people in Colleton County deserve a sheriff's department that actually takes an active interest in what they're required or should be interested in doing, and that is investigating and taking care of the public, and not jumping to conclusions about any particular person, right? With everything that has happened and everything that has been said, and you would think that they would want to take an interest in this. There's a reason why, and I don't understand. I've never been able to figure out why they wouldn't want to, because it would be a win for them if they could find him or find out what happened to him.
Whenever I was calling to talk to the detective for the first time and I finally got through, I think he thought the phone was on hold, and I heard him talking to somebody else and he was telling him, well, don't take a whole long time looking for him, for somebody, because you know how he feels about law enforcement. So I'm like, okay, so I'm calling about my missing brother, and you're telling somebody not to take a long time looking for somebody that sounds like they might be missing. I mean, I don't know. I was like, oh, yay, here we go.
Well, that sheriff's department is known for corruption anyway, and that isn't me just saying that. That's a fact. They are known for some significant corruption down that way. So it doesn't surprise me any.
Well, we truly appreciate y'all not giving up, being his voice, coming here to share his story, and keeping his name out there until that right person sees or hears and comes forward. Thank y'all so very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
You too.
Let us know if y'all need anything. We're here for
Okay.
you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.